Okay, so now we've taken care of the basics. We've picked a cage, we've got perches in our cage, now the fun begins. Let's talk about toys. Now, as everybody knows, parrots need toys. Parrots are very intelligent birds, and they need to be entertained, especially if you're not going to be with them 24/7, which most of us can't be. Most of us have to go to school or work or just go out and socialize with our friends. So when you're not there, your birds need something to keep them occupied, to keep them entertained, to prevent them from developing stress-related disorders such as screeching or even plucking out their own feathers, which we certainly don't want to have our pet budgies doing. So we need to keep them entertained, and we do that by providing them with lots of toys and a big variety of them. So when you're picking toys, you want to keep in mind that not every budgie will respond the same to every toy, and that it will take them a while to accept something new and familiar in their environment. Some people recommend that when you're introducing a new object that you leave it outside of their cage for a few days so that they get used to seeing it before you actually put it into their environment. That's not always possible, so if you are putting something straight into their cage, just keep in mind that you should try to only add maybe one new item at a time so that they have a chance to get used to it before something else changes. Someone I once heard describe it as the radioactive reaction, that anything new in their environment, in their cage, birds will treat it like it's radioactive. They'll stay as far away from it as possible. It can be quite funny actually to watch your budgies as they try to stay as far away from a particular object, as far on the opposite side of the cage, higher up, lower down, just trying to stay as far away from it. So just be prepared that it can take them a while. It can take them maybe a week or 2 weeks before they're ready to accept a new toy, and that they may not be as excited about that new toy as you are. So when you're first picking toys, it might be a good idea to pick a small assortment of different types of toys to try with your budgies, particularly if your budgies are new to you, just to find out what they like, what do they seem most interested in, and then from there you can figure out what types of toys you should focus on getting more of. So ideally you do want to have a variety of toys that you can move in and out of their cage so that they have something new to keep them entertained, keep them engaged. Budgies are very intelligent birds, like all parrots are, so they do become easily bored. So a variety of toys in their environment that are changing around will help to keep them from becoming bored and possibly doing behaviors such as the screaming or the self-mutilation with pulling feathers. You might want to look at maybe at first only switching out one toy each week or every other week when you first get your budgies, and eventually maybe looking at switching out 1 or 2 toys a week or at least every other week, just to keep your budgies entertained with something new in their environment, something new to look at, to play with. And it also helps for you in terms of keeping your toys clean and for keeping them maintained, for checking for toys that may have become damaged with use that now need to be replaced for safety reasons. Now, it's hard to know what your particular budgies are going to love to play with, so I would suggest picking a couple of different types of toys to begin with and seeing how your birds respond to them. Now, let's talk about a few of our options. Now, as anyone will tell you, there are a few things that budgies love. One of them is mirrors. There are so many different types of mirrors you can get. Here's one example of a very simple little mirror that comes with a bell, another thing that budgies love to play with. Some people are concerned about that mirrors in that their budgies can become obsessed with their own reflections. They fall in love with the birdie in the mirror. So if you are choosing to put mirrors into your cage, you want to watch your budgies and just see how they're interacting with those mirrors and making sure that they're not becoming too obsessed with them. If that's the case, you might want to think about removing the mirrors. Another toy that budgies really enjoy having in their environment are swings. Now, I've got 2 types of swings here. The first one is a very simple little wooden swing. It just attaches by this little anchor here to the top of your cage. It's very simple, basic wooden dowel, and my budgies do enjoy this. But the swing that they really love is this swing here. This is a double perch swing. So I've had as many as 4 of my budgies on this swing at one time. Now this swing actually does come with mirrors on both sides. So quite often my budgies will play peekaboo around the mirrors. They'll look at themselves in one mirror and then peek around the corner to see their friend on the other perch. It's quite fun to watch, but this is by far one of my budgies' favorite toys. And luckily it's also not a very expensive one. It's made out of plastic, so it's not that expensive. Another thing that budgies enjoy are toys that they can manipulate or move around. Now I have a few examples of that. One toy that mine have always loved are rings. You can find all sorts of different styles of these, but my birds love being able to pick them up, being able to climb them, being able to toss them. They just seem to really enjoy this kind of toy that gives them a lot of ability to move it and manipulate it. So you might want to think about that in terms of looking for some toys that have a lot of movement to them, that they're something that your bird's going to be able to move around with using their feet and their beaks. Another example is a toy like this one here, which attaches to the side of your cage and actually spins. Now again, it has bells on it, which budgies love the sound, and they will just spin it around. They'll chew on the bells, they'll watch the bees as they go between the different sections. So again, this is the kind of toy that many budgies do enjoy playing with. Sometimes you actually need to spin it a few times yourself to sort of show your budgie what to do with it. A really good example of that is this toy here. When I first put this toy in my cage, my budgies had no idea what to do with it. They actually avoided it for the first week. They treated it like it was radioactive. Stayed as far away from it as possible. Finally, they decided it was safe to investigate, and they would come down and land on the top here and chew at the top. And finally, they'd actually come down and perch in front of it. I had this set up over a perch. And they finally got the idea that this ball could be moved, that these could be spun around. Of course, they didn't spin it quite that fast, but they gradually got the idea that these could be manipulated and moved. And of course, again, this is a toy that actually does have a mirror in the back of it. So even though it did take them a while to choose to play with this toy, this was a toy that they did enjoy. Now there are lots of toys like these. There's a really wide variety of toys that are almost like games. Ones that are, basketballs with little balls on chains for your bird to put them into the basket. There's a real wide variety of those, so take a look at what's available in your area, take a look at online, and make some choices. But like I said, probably a good idea to start with just a few of a wide variety and just see what your birds naturally gravitate to. So another thing to provide your birds with are ladders. Now we talked about ladders a little bit with perches when we were talking about our perches, but ladders are also a toy. This is a very simple wooden perch ladder, but I also have another ladder that actually has a mirror at the top of it with beads that slide back and forth on a wire. So it's almost a toy, a game, as well as being a ladder. So these do sort of bridge the gap between perches and toys. So you want to think about maybe having some ladders for your birds to climb. Now finally, talking about toys, probably the biggest amount of your toys are going to be going into toys that are for chewing, for destroying, for shredding. Now these are toys that you are going to have to replace because they are intended to be destroyed. Now I've got a few examples. This is one of them. So this is a toy that has paper, it's got lovely bits of thread for them to chew on, there's some chunks of wood wrapped in these pieces of paper so they have something nice and hard to chew on. This is the type of toy that they will pull it to pieces. And my birds are very, very good at doing that. They can take a toy like this, and they will have probably, when I put this one into their cage, they'll probably have one or two of these pieces ripped right off it within a day or two. Another example of a chew toy is this one here. It's made with these discs, and these come in varying sizes. This is one of the smaller ones that I bought because of having Budgies being a small parrot. But again, nice little soft fibrous wood bits that they can shred and rip to pieces. So again, this is a toy for them to chew and destroy. This is not a toy that you expect to see last in your cage. This is a toy that they are going to want to destroy, and they will. Now, here's a toy that my Budgies actually loved right from the first second they saw it. I think they ignored this toy for maybe a grand total of 10 minutes before they were all over it. It's a very simple toy again. Hangs from the hook. It's a combination of colored popsicle sticks and colored wooden beads. My Budgies have already been playing with this toy, so it's a little battered up. They've actually managed to chew a couple of these popsicle sticks already right off, and many of the others are quite worn along the edges where they've been chewing away at it. My Budgies actually love to use their beaks to pull these out so that they can actually come and stand on them so that they can then chew on the other popsicle sticks higher up or down below. So it's a very fun toy. It's really good for them. It promotes that natural foraging instinct that they have. And it's good for them in terms of being balanced and in getting exercise, and that it takes a fair bit of effort to be perching on one of these and keeping on your balance and your grip. So again, these are great chew toys. The last chew toy I'm going to show you is this one here. My Budgies are just starting to use this one, and you can see where it's a little bit worn. So this is made out of paper and a bit of probably straw or raffia. It's just a simple little woven toy. And again, this is something meant for them to chew on it, to really destroy it. And they will, and it's really good for them. It's good for their beaks. It keeps their beaks really well trimmed, stops them from having potential of those beaks becoming overgrown, which is a real concern. If a Budgie's beak becomes overgrown, it can really compromise their ability to eat properly. So having these chew toys that keep their beaks nicely trimmed is very important for their health, actually. And it keeps them entertained. It's a lot of problem solving in terms of how to grip it, how to stand on it, hanging upside down from it. They get a fair bit of exercise playing with these kind of toys. So these are really beneficial, and you should always have a selection of these available in your Budgie's cage, and remember that you will have to replace them. So if this is a toy that your Budgie really loves, be prepared that you're going to be buying it many, many times over, because they will destroy it. This is the type of toy that only will last so long in your cage before it has to be thrown out and replaced with a new one. So the last toy that I want to show you is not actually a toy to go in your cage. This is a toy that if you are letting your Budgies out of their cage into your home environment, you might want to consider getting a toy like this one. It's called a portable playground. So this is a portable playground. It's one example of one of these playgrounds. There are a number of different types on the market. They come in different sizes for different types of birds. It's a fairly simple little playground. It has a solid base tray that will hopefully keep any debris, such as poop, or if you've chosen to feed your Budgies a treat, keep the seed husks or other debris here and not scattered everywhere. This particular model has two little standing perches, a bell, since Budgies do love their bells. It comes with a swing, and then it actually does have a ladder that can be removed and repositioned in different areas, as well as just the perching areas here on the top. So this is something that you can try with your Budgies if you are letting them out of their cage, just as somewhere sort of a home base for them to hang out on when they're out of their cage. Many of the Budgies will choose to hang out just strictly on top of their cage, which is also fine. You can get special toys and perches that are designed to be connected to the tops of your cages, so you might want to look at some of those. But these portable playgrounds are also another option that you might want to consider. Okay, so those were some of the basic toys or types of toys that you could select for your budgie. Now, there are so many different toys out there, it's really impossible for me to even try to show them all. I'm not even going to try to show you pictures of others available just because there are so many. Go to your local pet shop, check online, see what's available, and just see what appeals to you. Now, we're going to take a second to talk about not toys exactly, but some accessories that you might want to consider adding to your cage. The first one I'm going to show you is this one here. This is called a Beak Block. It's actually a piece of stone that's quite rough that mounts to the side of the cage. It's meant for your birds to be able to rub their beaks on it to keep those beaks in good trim. They can also rub their nails on it if they want to help keep their nails trimmed. We talked about the importance of that when we were talking about perches. So this is something that you could consider adding to your cage if you wanted to. Another accessory that you might want to consider adding is this little guy here. This is called a treat clip. It actually connects to the cage wall. It slots in between the bars right in these little grooves here, and you just squeeze there to open up the clip part, and then you can stick different types of treats into here to hold on to them so that your budgies can come over and eat their treats. We'll talk about treats in another video, but this is a treat clip. You don't have to have one of these, but it can be handy for serving particularly some types of treats, some of the what are called Nutriberries. So this is something you might want to consider. These are quite inexpensive. You might want to consider getting some of these for your cage. Now, the last accessory we're going to talk about is bird baths. Now, some people choose to have a bird bath just as a simple shallow dish that they put into the bottom of their cage, and that's fine. That's a really good bird bath to use. Other people don't like having it in the cage itself, and they're looking for different types of bird baths that maybe are a little less messy. One type to use is a bird bath such as this one here. So this is a bird bath that actually connects to the side of your cage. So you would open up one of the doors, if you have sliding doors in your cage, you'd open up one of those sliding doors. This part here actually just sits right on the door ledge, and what happens is this frame here actually slides over top and connects in and seals the bath itself, and actually keeps the water contained. So this actually sits on the outside of your cage, and so it actually extends outwards, so it's not taking up space in your cage. I like this particular style. There's a number of different styles of this type of bird bath that hangs outside the cage available. I like this particular one because of the attachment here. This actually turns to lock it in place. Many of the other ones just sort of sit over the bars, and you could potentially run the risk of it maybe getting knocked off the cage, depending on where your cage is located, and if you have young children or pets that are near the cage, that might be a risk. I like this one because it does have this grip here that will lock it in place over the bars and prevent it from being accidentally knocked out of place. Again, like anything new, it can take your budgie quite a long time to accept it. When I got this bird bath and started offering it to them, for the first month or so, they wouldn't have anything to do with it. They completely ignored it. Finally, after a few weeks, they did start to explore it, in that they would start chewing on this part here, they would start chewing on the perch, chewing on the sides, but not going in it. It actually took about 5 weeks or so before my birds would actually go in it to bathe. I found having it only about half full with warm water was what they preferred, and now that my birds are actually quite happy to come into this and bathe. But it did take a long time and a fair bit of patience. So like with any other toy or accessory that you're adding to the cage, don't be surprised if it takes a while before your budgies accept it and are willing to play with it. So those are a few examples of toys and accessories that you might want to add to your Budgies cage to make their lives more enriched and more satisfying.